Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first in a series of 3 webinars this fall about Scribble in your classroom. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Matt Winters. I'm from Utah Education Network, and I run our Scribble research class, Research Ready with Scribble at UEN. And I love this tool. I've been using it for about 1.5 years now. I've done many trainings on it. And I'm so excited to get it out into more and more schools. And so that's what this whole webinar series is about, is helping Utah educators to learn a little bit more about this great research tool called Scribble, get it into their classrooms, get students using it, and get them prepared to be better researchers and better users of scholarly articles across the world. But also, on top of that, save things and make things a little bit easier in the process of learning. So that's what this whole series is about. We're going to be doing 3 videos starting today. We're doing Scribble for beginners. Then we're going to do some advanced Scribble work next week. And then finally, we'll be looking at some practical applications that we're calling Scribble for libraries, but it's really for any teacher, for anybody who is ready to use Scribble and get into it. We'll have some special guests that we'll announce here in a few days that will be joining us there to talk about these applications that we could use Scribble for across curriculums, across rooms in the building, across districts. We're very excited to share those with you. So today, folks, we're going to be covering the basics of Scribble. We'll be jumping into our libraries, which is where we build all of the specific content around different citations and different articles. There's a lot in there to learn. But then next week, when we get into Scribble Advanced, we'll be looking at the Scribble extension toolbar and looking at the ways to build assignments and classes within Scribble. So basically companion series to get you started on some really cool work with Scribble. And I'm very excited today because I'm not doing this alone, which I've done a lot of webinars sometimes alone, and I'm excited to have a secondary person today. So I'm excited to introduce Davina from USBE. How you doing, Davina?
Hi, Matt. I am so excited to be here. Thanks for doing this with me. I'm excited about Scribble. I am the library media specialist at Utah State Board of Education, and I have personally used Scribble to do my own research, and I've taught other educators and librarians to use Scribble, and so I'm really excited to share this awesome tool with everyone.
Same. It's just one of those tools that when I started using it, I was a little apprehensive at first, and then I started using it, and I went, "Where was this during grad school for me?"
Right, right. Well, and I will say in grad school for me, a lot of us were like sharing different tools that we use, and I just kept coming back to Scribble because it did everything that I needed it to do in one place. So pretty amazing.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, but I've been using this to do stuff for my classes that I've been building at UEN, using it to write research projects for sharing at like conferences like ISTE and South by Southwest. It just has been a tremendous resource. And now that I'm out of the classroom doing PDs and things like this, I wish I would have had this in my ELA classroom. It would have made life so much simpler.
So much simpler, and probably even most important is for our students. Because the writing process can be really complicated, and this kind of streamlines that process and each step and aspect of the writing process and puts it all under one roof for students to do research and navigate and then come out with this awesome paper or essay that they're working on to show their learning.
Exactly. It's a kind of a one-stop shop for all that amazing research that we want to see in our classrooms across curriculum areas. So the first thing I want to say is that, and I'm sure Davina, you'll echo this, is this isn't a tool for English classrooms or only for libraries. This is something that any teacher in the state of Utah could use K through 12.
Yeah, absolutely. My art teachers even used Scribble and did research using Scribble for art projects. So any content area can use this tool.
Absolutely. And so first off, let's talk a little bit about what is Scribble. So if you're brand new to Scribble, folks, this might be a little bit of a review, but they're good things to know and good things to kind of set up. So the first thing is that Scribble is a statewide tool that is paid through USBE through the end of this upcoming school year. So it's paid through 2023. It looks like it's probably going to get refunded, so don't worry about it. And I mean like re dash funded, not refunded as in taken away. So we will hopefully have this for many years to come, because it's been a tool that's been growing in use across the state of Utah. So it's free to use for every student in the state of Utah and every teacher in the state of Utah, and it's a full account totally paid up. So that's number one thing that we wanted you to know, is that this isn't a tool that's going to disappear at the end of the school year. This isn't a tool that's going to disappear halfway through the school year or anything like that. It's all paid. It's all free for you as teachers.
Awesome. And we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but we're going to show you some of the really amazing pieces of Scribble that help to organize your students and you as educators as you curate, as you annotate, as you cite, and you write for a simpler research and writing process. So we're going to jump in, and Matt's going to talk to you about how to, first of all, integrate that with Canvas or Google Classroom, Nearpod. So Matt, tell us more about that.
Absolutely. So that's one of the big things that we can take away right away, is that this is a system that is directly compatible with many of the systems that we use in Utah schools already. So Canvas has an integration that you can log in, have Scribble inside of it, and it's ready to roll for students on your navigation bar. Single sign-on with Google, as well as building Google Docs inside of Scribble, and then also a Microsoft integration across the board. So lots of really cool integrations there for us as teachers, which makes it just a nice equal add-on to our already existing technology ecosystems in our classroom, which I don't know about you, Davina, but I don't need another login. I just want to jump right in.
Nope, I love integrations. And I always say if I can keep my students in Canvas or Google Classroom and put everything in there that they need to use, then we're better off. And Scribble does that for both of those platforms and in other ways too.
Absolutely. So before we get started too deep, so today what we're gonna run down is the basics. We're gonna talk about logging in. We're gonna get you into the Scribble library. Davina's gonna do a deep dive with you on that. We're gonna talk about some of the things inside of the library, and then kind of give you a preview of next week. To start off with, though, just to give you a good idea, a good jumping off point, to get there, it's scrolling down at the bottom here is scribble.com is the website. On there in the top right hand corner, we'll show you this into in a minute, is that there's a login button. That's how you and your students are going to get there really, really easily. One of the best things about Scribble, Davina, I absolutely love this feature, is that the interface for students is almost exactly the same as the interface for teachers. So there's no hidden buttons or anything like that. So that makes it really easy.
Makes it easy for the teacher to learn it and the teacher to teach their students how to use it.
Exactly. And I'm going to put this on the bottom here as well. If you are looking for some more resources between sessions, if you want to keep this going, we're going to put these videos on this page as well. We have a Google site at go.uen.org/lowercase b, uppercase s, lowercase r. That will have all the materials for the state of Utah Scribble, then also these videos as they come out, so that you'll have some great review material for future reference as well.
Well, and definitely check out that website Matt just read out to you, because it is robust. It has everything you'll need to start using Scribble in your classroom today.
Yeah, which is the goal. We want to start as early and as often as possible with Scribble with our students.
That's right.
All right, folks. So with that said, we're going to jump over. I'm going to show you how to log into Scribble, and you're going to get a taste of what Scribble looks like when you get started. So with that said, here is scribble.com. This is their launch page. If you're interested, folks, there also is scribble.com/Utah, just the 4 letters for Utah. And that'll actually give you the launch page for the Utah program. But this is where your students need to go. This is where you'll want to bookmark for your students to get logged in and get ready to roll. What you'll do is you'll go up here into the top right-hand corner and click sign in. Once you or your students click sign in, you have a choice down here at the bottom. If this is your first time, you're not going to have the big Google G up here. This is just me logging in for my last time. But down here at the bottom, you're going to have all of the possible single sign-on services. So you got a Scribble account with an email and password. That's probably the least popular one, because you're probably going to just want an easy one, which is possibly Google or Microsoft. Those are the 2 most common in the state of Utah. But there's also ClassLink, Clever, Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo, and OpenID, and they keep adding more possible logins. There's a few other ones that they're working on right now to make it easier for our students and our teachers in the state of Utah. So definitely check back here as you go. I would probably, depending on your district or your LEA, go ahead and choose either your Google or probably Office 365. Those are probably your best 2 options for single sign-on. Whichever one works best for you, go ahead and click it. I'm going to click this in just a second, but if this is your first time doing Scribble, using it in your classroom, or if it's your first time with your students, they are going to have to answer a couple of questions. Who are you? What are you using your account for? And then also they're going to ask a question about what are you planning to use Scribble for? Just putting research is a great answer there. Or if your students put, I don't know, that's okay as well. It happens, so no worries there. I'm going to go ahead and click login, and then it's going to take us directly, after I do my single sign on here, directly into our Scribble library. And that's where I'm going to toss it over to Davina here in a second once we get loaded up. There you go. This is your library right here. And Davina is going to show us a little bit about how to use our Scribble library.
Okay, great. So we are smack right in the middle of our library. And the first thing I want to show you is the tabs here up at the top of your screen. So if you get out of the library, and we'll talk more about classes and assignments in a later video, but if you get out of the library and you need to get back, that tab there at the top will take you back to this screen here. So the library is a place for you to stay organized and know where your articles are, everything that you've pulled up online or uploaded as a PDF. You're able to like group your annotations together, your highlights together, tag things, do a bibliography, and so forth. So let me show you a few quick features that are going to be important to know as you start building your library. So first of all, on my left-hand side toolbar here, you'll see that I have one library titled My Library that just comes standard when you first log into Scribble. And then I've created a second library already called Hurricane Essay. But I'm going to show you how to create your own library. So on the top of this toolbar, you'll see a plus new library, which if you hover over it tells you what it does. And we're going to go ahead and select that and create a new library. So for today, I'm going to just call it Librarian Library. Let's make things complicated here. If I wanted to give it a description, I could, but I would just say we're practicing for a Scribble webinar, and then I will go ahead and create it. Okay, so right now I am inside my new library that I created, and I have a couple of options here. The first one would be that maybe I want to share this with my students, or maybe I am collaborating with another content teacher on a project we're working on. So I want to share this library with another person or persons so that we can work together on a project. And we love collaboration, so we love that this is an option here in Scribble. So first of all, let me go back one step here to show you what I'm doing. I am selecting the gear to the right of the name of the library I want to share. And then I'm going to select the Collaborators button here at the top. I can also edit, if I wanted to, the names and the descriptions, or I could delete my library in here. But for now, we're going to go ahead and add a collaborator. And so I will select Add Collaborator on the right-hand button here. Whoops. And I'm going to choose, for this instance, I'm going to just choose to add an individual. We'll talk more about classes in the next video. So for now, let's go ahead and select Add Individual Collaborators. And I could add other people's emails to share this, this library. And then I can choose what permissions they have. Do I want them to be able to create, modify the library, just copy it, delete it? I have some choices here, and I would just say add. And then I have a few more permissions down here as well. So am I making this private, so only the collaborators are going to be able to access the library, or public? And then I can choose if they can just look at it and view it. Might want to do that for students if you aren't having them actually change anything, but maybe use the resources. Or I can make it so anyone is able to modify. And then we'll go ahead and X out of here. And we're back to the main library screen, where you can see that I don't have any sources in here yet. So I'm going to go to one of my other libraries where I do have sources. And I have a couple of articles that I found on the web that I will show you here shortly, how to get a source from the internet into this screen here. I can also add a new source from my computer by selecting the plus sign of new source and then choosing to upload a file, or adding a web page if I already knew it, if I already know what it is. We're going to show you how to use the Scribble toolbar, which is really probably the streamlined, simplest way to add sources from the web. But we do have some choices here of adding sources to our library. Now, once we have a source in here, I can do a few things with it. So if I wanted to select the source, I could select all of them. I can select just a couple of them. And then I can tag them to say some themes or topics that each of the sources have. So maybe this source is it talks about animals, which we know it doesn't, but maybe I want to put in a new tag and apply that tag. So now you see on the right-hand side here that this source is tagged as dangerous. That's a topic that came up in that source maybe. And this source has a tag of animals. So it might be a theme that we see recurring. And that's a good way for your students to group their sources together so they can find the information that they're looking for and use it to start writing their paper or their essay. The next tab up here at the top of our library, or we're inside this library, is Annotations. So let me go back here. Actually, I forgot to do the rest of this row here. So let me do that first. So I'm going to come in here. Oops. So I'm in my source right here. And besides, I still have this source selected. Besides tagging it, I could move it to another library. So if I put my cursor in that box there, it shows that my other libraries are available. I can also copy the sources to another library. So leave a copy in this library and move it to another library. And then I also can share it. So I could send a link to, I could copy this link and send it in a chat to someone, or I could email it to them or post it on Twitter or Facebook. And then I could create a summary of my annotations. So if I have annotated this document here, I could do a summary. I can add this source to my bibliography. So you'll see here I've done 2 sources in here, and students could print this out and use it in their paper. And then let me go back to sources over here. And then I can also delete the source if it's not something that's going to be applicable to what I'm writing, which we know happens, right? We find a lot of sources and we compile them all together, and then we take the top 5, 6, whatever it is that we need for our essay, and we get rid of the rest. One other option that I can do in here is I can search for specific words. So let's say I want to see if any of these sources talk about damage. And there we go. I have my list of 2 sources, and I see that both of these are using the words damage. And so I could quickly find the information that I want to find and cite it in my paper that I'm writing. All right.
2 quick questions for you. 1, how many libraries can I make?
Unlimited?
Yeah. I think a lot of teachers and a lot of students would love to know that. We can make as many libraries as we want. So students can have a library for every content area in their class schedule. They can have multiples for every single class. They can make one for every assignment if you want. And then second question, how many sources can they add to each library?
Well, I'm going to say unlimited as well. I've never hit a limit when I've been doing my own research.
Same. I have about 1,000 resources in one library, and I still haven't gotten anywhere close my limit. So just keep that in mind, educators, is that your students and you can add as many libraries and as many sources. And we've been doing this for 1.5 years. I'm nowhere near my end. So just want to make sure we grab those as well while we're talking about sources.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that tip there. Let's move on, and let me show you this Annotations tab here. I'm going to go over to my other library that has a few other sources in it that I have annotated. And if I select this Annotation tab here, oh, I thought I had some annotations in there. Maybe I deleted them all. We'll show you this in just a few minutes, or maybe in the next video. But once I annotate a source or 2 sources, and I can actually see a list of all of my annotations here in one row. So we'll show you that here in another few minutes to see if, so you can have a visual of what that looks like.
Davina, I have it up on mine if you'd like me to switch over.
Yes, that'd be great.
So here's my annotations right now for one of my libraries. And you can see all of the different annotations I have. So these are the different markers, some of the text changes. I can also see which article it came from, and I can tag any of my annotations, but also any of these text right here is the actual annotation I made. So if I highlight a particular piece of text using the toolbar, which we'll talk about next week, this will actually show up right here, and I can start using it in an outline or a project leader as well.
Awesome. I love seeing all those annotations when I'm like, I've read my articles, I've made my annotations, and then I'm like, where was that? And I'm able to search what I highlighted and find the information quickly and easily. It just makes doing research, I hate to say enjoyable, but a little bit kind of like, this is fun.
Absolutely. It's weird to say fun in research, but there are we are a librarian and a former ELA teacher, though. So, I mean, we have a special subset right there.
That's
But
right.
it does make it kind of fun. One of the things I love about this is that I can create my own kind of key to my annotations of these colors mean certain things, these types of highlights. I can leave comments, those sorts of things, and they're all just kind of there when I need them. So rather than me having to remember what I researched, it's kind of there for me, but then also I know why I researched it. What's the purpose behind it with the annotation? Again, we'll show you more about this next week, but it's one of the most powerful parts of Scribble for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I actually was thinking about all the quotes that I like to save and who I want to share them with. And this would be a great way for me to do that. Like tag it, like this is the quote I'm going to share with my son, and this is the quote I'm going to share with my husband, and this is the quote I'm going to share with my book club. So
I love that. That's fantastic. I'll have to start doing that with music lyrics for sure coming up.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue across the top here. So we got 4 more options here. I'm going to take over, Davina, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
So we've got our bibliography as our next one, and this is just a quick one, but it's so important. As a former ELA teacher, one of the hardest struggles I ever had was getting students to put things in the proper format, but then also to have a properly formatted works cited page. Scribble makes it super easy. So any citation that we have, or any source that we have, which these are all the ones from my library here, I can just go ahead and drag and drop in to my bibliography, and it will add that in the proper format. Now, it's about 70 to 90% accurate, so you might have to go in and edit the citation a little bit, maybe add some more material, maybe they miss an author or a publishing date or something like that. But there's ways to do that. We'll look at that next week with the Scribble toolbar. But there's lots of, it makes it super easy to add those sources just by dragging and dropping and putting them into your bibliography. On top of that, you can see how many sources you have right here in the top bar. We can switch this from MLA or APA to MLA with just a click of one button. But also they have 10,000 plus citation styles. So I don't know that I'd ever need 10,000 plus, but they're there if you need them, so you're ready to roll. You also can create an annotated bibliography with one click. So the students can start typing on this and adding in annotations to their citations. Or we can also do a split primary and secondary source bibliography. So it makes it really easy for our social studies teachers to do those split bibliographies that we would like. This is all fully copyable too, so we can just grab this, Control C, Control V, and you're good to go. And if you want to remove any of these sources, like for instance, maybe I want to get rid of this Trevor Noah book, I just hit the little minus sign right there and it disappears from my bibliography. So really easy to work it through. Across the top tab too, we also have another button that's for outlining. This allows our students to create an outline for their project so they can pull and grab in sources and have those become part of their project really easily to see that work or that outline. And then the last two here, papers is one of my favorite ones here because we can actually create a brand new paper if you're in a Google district from Google Docs and start writing my paper directly inside of Scribble. So I can pull my research, I can weave through my research and find all of those great citations and quotes and everything else that I need to do. But then I can also start writing my paper directly inside of Google Docs without having to go over to Google Docs, which makes it really, really easy. It does take a minute sometimes to load in. So just warn your students, especially if they're on like a Chromebook or maybe an iPad, that they, especially on Wi-Fi, it might take them another minute to do that. But it does load up. If I just click on one of my previous papers, it loads up just like Google Docs, and you have the full suite right there ready to roll. The last thing here, go ahead, Davina.
Quick question, Matt. When you create a new paper inside of Scribble, does it automatically create the doc in the Google Drive?
Yep, absolutely. So your students will be
Okay,
able to turn that in on Canvas or Google Classroom or whatever learning management system you're using. So it saves in both spots and it just connects the two together, which
that's awesome.
it's just a dreamy scenario right there.
Hmm.
Love it.
Absolutely.
The last little button here is our metrics. This actually breaks down what sources are in our library, and we can see what kind of access methods we've had versus our library versus our bibliography, what kind of libraries we're pulling from: academic, news, government, nonprofit, blog, book, other, and then our top databases or database sources, and then also where we're pulling from on the open web. So what websites are our students directly looking at? You can see, love Edutopia. I got 4 articles in there, but UEN, maybe I have 3, or I only have 2 from YouTube. So I can quickly see just over the shoulder of my students what kind of research they're pulling together and what kind of things they're doing with that research in our classrooms, which is just an incredible way for us to quickly get metrics. And we'll look more at metrics when we talk about assignments and classes next week, because this pie graph is going nowhere when we talk about student work and student growth instead of assignments and bibliography. So very, very cool stuff there under, again, our metrics tab.
Well,
So in a nutshell, oh, go ahead.
the data nerd in me was thinking how fun it would be for students to share with each other the differences of their metrics based on the research that they did and the learning that might happen from seeing that differences, those different sources and where they got them from, because not every student's going to have the same research and find the same research. So I thought, what a fun activity that might be to have students be sharing with each other these graphs so they can identify, what's different between each other's research and where they found their sources.
Absolutely. Or I'm just thinking about like assignments for teachers as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
screenshot it. Hey, kids, I need you to screenshot your top 10 open web sources in your library, screenshot it, turn
Yeah.
it on your LMS. And then you as a teacher can go through and say, oh, you seem on track. You have plenty of sources coming from a lot of different perspectives. They all seem like legitimate, good websites. Over here doesn't seem so much. So it
Yeah.
really helps with that. There's a lot of different ways you could work it through to make it easy for our students to share what they're doing and make it easy for us as teachers to to dive deep with our students.
Perfect.
So with that said, that is the library in kind of generalities. We don't want to dive too deeply into anything else with Scribble because we got the toolbar and classes and assignments next week. But Davina, if you were a brand new teacher, or if you were working with brand new teachers or librarians or students on Scribble, and we just got this far, what would be your top thing that you'd want them to try this week?
I would probably have them find a PDF and add it to their library. Would be the first thing that I would try. I also was thinking a little bit earlier on in this session is that as a classroom teacher, I want to make sure that students have access to this tool at the beginning of the year so they can really learn how to use it throughout the year. So it would be something that I would probably teach them as soon as I could at the beginning of the year, and part of my procedures, and this is the tool we're using for research, and having them set up a library. I'd probably have them set the library up first and then add the PDF to their library. But yeah, I would just make sure that they're familiar with the tool. They have the library titled for whatever content we're going to be addressing this year, and then maybe even finding one source to add to their library.
I love that idea. I think getting students into it early and doing things often with them, maybe over the course of an entire quarter or semester, building up to maybe the big project like a science fair project or big research essay, or even an informational essay. This could be a really powerful way to use it, and that time is going to really help you out.
Yeah.
On my side, here's a couple hot tips that I really love. Davina brought up, if we go over to our sources tab here, that under new sources, you can add a PDF, which that is fantastic. It allows students to annotate. One of my favorite things as an ELA teacher is that out of copyright books like The Great Gatsby, you can go download a PDF and then the students could annotate the book as you read it in class without having to mess up a copy of The Great Gatsby. But one of my favorite things though is this button that says add book. And what I love about that is that if you put in any book title, it allows you to grab that book as a source in your library. So if I click that, I just added it to it. It should load into my library here in just a moment. And close that out. There it is. And then when I click into it, the students are able to add an annotation by page number, and then they can add a quote from the source or an idea from there. So even though they're not annotating the full book, as you read a book in class or you're reading a science book or something like that, the students can annotate and add stuff to their library directly from that text as they go along. So I just love that feature. So with that said, that was everything that you need to know about the Scribble library. Davina, what are we covering next week?
We are going to go over the Scribble toolbar, which is where you're inside an article online and able to annotate that article right from the web page. We're going to cover classrooms as a teacher. So setting up a classroom and adding students to it, and then building assignments, creating an assignment that you want students to do, and sharing that with them through Scribble. And then some new features that are just coming out and being tested right now is Scribble using the operating OS system for Apple for iPads and Safari. So we're really excited about that. I know many times I've wanted to use my iPad as I'm like reading an article on there to annotate, and it's a little clunky the way it has been in the past through the web, and now they're going to be putting it through an extension on OS on iPad operating system. So very excited about that.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to share all of those updates. But then also for me, the rubber hits the road. Like the library is amazing, but rubber hits the road when we can start assigning work to students with this, and we start using the toolbar to really do that live annotation work that's so hard for students. And so next week's going to be amazing. We'll be there again Tuesday, 4 p.m. next week. So join us then. And if you have any questions between now and then, folks, feel free to check out our website. Again, it's at go.uen.org/lowercase b, uppercase s, lowercase r, or check out scribble.com, or feel free to email Davina or I. My email is mwinters@uen.org. Davina, what's your email for everyone?
It's davina.sauthoff@schools.utah.gov.
And we're happy to answer any questions with Scribble, anything with, well, on Davina's side, libraries and media services. On my side, anything Google, anything Scribble, anything, if you want to talk James Joyce and Ulysses, I'd love to sit down and talk to you about that as well. But feel free to email us, folks. And with that said, we will see you next week. Same time, just next Tuesday. Thanks so much.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
All right, we are done.